Hey everybody, it's Drew with Como Comic Books, and in today's video we are going to touch on all the craziness that's going on in the world and how that is impacting the comic convention scene. So stick with us and we'll get you caught up. Welcome back. My name is Drew Stewart. I'm the owner of Como Comic Books, which is a Columbia, Missouri-based comic book vendor. What a week it's been. A week ago, when I was working on our last video, my expectations for this week's new post were going to be, really just the final details, getting ready before Planet Comicon. As it was on the calendar, we were going to head west to Kansas City first thing Thursday morning. The further the week went on last week, the less likely it looked like that was probably going to happen, as the concern regarding the coronavirus really started to take hold and you began to see events being postponed, municipalities declaring states of emergency, states declaring states of emergency, as well as, a national state of emergency. As a result of the declaration of a state of emergency and just the growing sense of concern, it was decided that Planet Comicon, along with any event in the Kansas City area that was going to be a gathering of 1,000 people or more, was going to be postponed for the short term. Tonight, we've got more developments. Now the CDC is recommending all events of 50 people or more not take place for the next 8 weeks, which would put us out to May 10th. So you are going to see what shows that are in that 8-week window that haven't canceled up to this point. You're probably going to see over the next couple days, maybe even hours, those shows begin to make announcements where they're going to drop off the schedule for the time being or postpone and try and find a date later in the year. That's all good and well. The important thing is right now is that everybody does what's best for the safety of themselves and their loved ones, the people in their lives, the people they're close to. And, we tamp down the spread of this disease so we can get control over it. That said, this is sending major waves throughout the comic convention scene, whereas you have just many shows that have postponed or canceled. What we are going to see as this continues on, as more shows fall off, the back half of this year is going to be crazy. The field is already pretty crowded, and now what you're going to have is you're going to have your shows that are typically spring shows starting to push into the fall and the late summer, which is going to further congest the season on the backside. So once we get through this, and this is all based on the assumption that come May and June, everything settles down and life returns back to, a sense of normalcy, that the shows that have been postponed will look for dates either in the summer, in the fall, to get back in and get their show on. Just a quick list right now of some of the shows that have dropped off. I've got WonderCon has been postponed. Dallas Fan Expo has been postponed. The Chicago Toy Show has been postponed. ECCC in Seattle was the first show to be suspended or to be postponed in the wake of the coronavirus. And this is also hitting some smaller shows too. The Spectre Show in St. Louis, which has been a long-running show in the St. Louis area, was canceled this week. Outside of the comic world, the Chicago Toy Show, which is a big twice-a-year toy show outside of Chicago and at Kane County, that has been postponed. It looks like they're not going to try and reschedule, so they won't have a show for the Chicago Toy Show until their fall date, as I understand it right now. Just in that short list of shows I mentioned there, already we're seeing some potential turmoil on the backside of this of the summer as far as the schedule filling up and just conflicts happening. The new date for Dallas Fan Expo is June 19th through the 21st. Now, one of my favorite shows is Heroes Con in Charlotte, North Carolina. June 19th through the 21st this year also happens to be the dates for Heroes Con in Charlotte. So right now, one of the first shows back to the table to get their revised date out, Dallas Fan Expo, is already piggybacking or doubling up on one of the other really good comic shows that takes place later in the year. So as more shows get back to the buffet here, as far as guests and dates go, you're going to see some really crazy stuff happen this summer, and don't really know how that's all going to shake out. Hopefully we can get most of these shows back in that have had to postpone. I know there's a lot of fans out there who have their tickets already purchased. They have their photo ops purchased. You know, they've already put a lot of money into the shows, especially if you were flying in for the show. Most of the time you probably had a hotel. I know I had to cancel my reservation for my hotel for Planet this weekend, had to cancel the reservation for the trailer. And, you know, it's just part of it, but the shows seem to be doing the best they can do in the limited amount of time they've had thus far to react, to ensure fans that, you know, their purchases will be honored, that they'll either get a credit for a future show for the new date, you know, they'll be able to use their same tickets or photo ops. It does seem that the shows are doing everything they can to take care of the fans, to make sure that nobody misses out on any money they've put in, which is great. Now, specifically talking about Planet, we should have new dates for Planet Comicon as soon as this coming Tuesday, March 17th. And some of the communication that's come out from the show, we do expect the date to be in the late summer, early fall, and we 100% plan on being on hand for the new dates for Planet Comicon. Once those dates are announced, we will revise our Facebook event, we'll update our social posts, and make sure everybody is aware of those new dates. We'll look forward to seeing everybody. We'll have just as good of stuff as we were going to have had the show gone on this week. So once we get that information out, keep an eye out and we'll get that in front of you. Another thing I'd like to discuss that kind of ties into all this, you have a lot of vendors that do this full time, some that just do this part time, but they do sink a lot of capital into their comic book exhibiting or vending business. If you ever get on a show's website, you look at the exhibitor tab, you look at some of the price lists on there, the booths aren't cheap. And a lot of times you have to pay several months out in advance. There is a pretty substantial impact that can be felt by some of these vendors when you have multiple shows in a row that have to postpone. Yes, the reality is those funds are forwarded on to the future dates, or if you can't make the revised dates, the following year, but that's still capital you've had tied up for months at that point that you don't have in your pocket to do other things with for your business. So I encourage you to get out there. If you have vendors you shop with on the regular that maybe are being impacted by some of these cancellations or postponements, reach out to them, check in with them on their social accounts, on their websites, and just see if there's anything you can do to help them out, to give them a little business, to bridge the gap between when we anticipated some of these shows that would be going on and the time until we actually get to have those shows with all the craziness that's going on. Just because so many shows are being postponed or put on pause for the time being doesn't necessarily mean that you need to give up on going to a comic show this year. I encourage you to continue to plan. We're going to make it through this coronavirus. While we may have to sacrifice here at the beginning, once we get things under control, everything starts to return to normal, we're going to have shows that are going to go on. So I encourage you to continue to make plans to attend a comic show or a comic convention here in 2020. With that, I've got a few tips I want to give you to make sure that as you do make decisions on attending a show later in the year, I want to make sure that you're protecting yourself as you do this. With everything going on, right now is a really good time to book travel. You just have to be careful with what you do and make sure that you don't put yourself in a corner with the arrangements that you're making. My first piece of advice would be to start watching your airfares now. With everything that's going on, there's not a lot of demand for plane tickets because we're social distancing. You know, we're keeping X amount of feet between ourselves. Unfortunately, when you're in an aircraft, that's not really possible. So demand for plane tickets is really dropping. Basic economics is as demand falls, so does the price. If you do identify a show that takes place later in the year that you would like to attend, start watching the plane ticket prices right now. I guarantee you, if you're patient with them, you keep track of them, you're going to find a pretty good deal here in the next few weeks. When you do identify a show you'd like to go to, be sure and really watch their social media accounts, their website, any outlet that they put information out to. Really keep your eye on it because you're going to want to be able to react as soon as possible if they do wind up postponing, changing their dates, whatever. The more informed you are and the quicker you can be informed about any changes or updates, the better you're going to be able to react and hopefully be in the best position to attend the show. The third tip I would give you if you're looking to travel to a convention later this year, be sure that you're spending a little extra money or paying attention to the package you're buying and ensure that you're giving yourself flexibility, that you have the ability to change flights, adjust hotel room dates, cancel your hotel room. A lot of the really value deals you can find typically lock you down to where you don't have the ability to change things. So as you are making these arrangements, be sure that you're paying attention to the fine details and that you do have the ability to revise your arrangements. That will save you in the long run, especially if something does wind up happening and your dates or your show changes. And last but not least, most importantly of all, just be safe. You know, if you're not comfortable with going out, don't go out, because when it comes down to it, the safety and security of you, your family, the people you're around, that's the most important thing. So if you feel you need to sit out 2020, that's great. There's still a lot of ways you can get out there and interact with the comic book community. You can hit eBay, you can shop on websites for your favorite vendors. You can hit them up on their social. Maybe they'll be doing some Facebook sales, Instagram sales, a lot of ways you can support them. So to wrap it up today, things are crazy. I hope everybody out there is doing all right. We're going to be here every week putting out a new video just to let you all know what is going on and where you can expect to see us. I hope you'll continue to join us, and everybody have a great night. If you're getting value out of the content we're posting, I encourage you to subscribe,